Hello, it's Richard at Richard's Guitars. In fact, actually, John, this is where I probably normally improvise because there's a guinea pig house just here. So we're not quite at Richard's Guitars. We're in the heart and soul of Richard's Guitars, which is my storeroom. And this is John, a person you may or may not have seen before. John, how long have you been with me now, John?
5, 6 months.
5, 6 months, yeah.
I think.
And does it feel like 5, 6 months?
No, I feel like I'm part of the furniture already.
It's crazy. Yeah, John, we haven't done an official kind of intro to John, which I feel obviously very guilty about. So, sorry, John. Sorry, John. I have apologised to John on several occasions about this, but it's kind of part of being in our little mad world, I think, isn't it? You know, it's time just every day just goes by, and one day leads into another, and all the best intentions just kind of like
everything just sort of happens.
Yeah, but there is a mad sort of kind of structure there somewhere.
Yes.
I think we're heading. We know kind of where we're heading.
I think we know what we're doing.
Yeah, it's good fun, isn't it? So John will get a bit more of a kind of a special intro at some point, but that is delayed because of a really exciting development that's going on in the world of Dowina guitars. So I wanted to talk to you briefly about my own background, about how I've got to learn about Dowina, and then once I've kind of given you a bit of a my own sort of the reasons why I'm excited about it and what it means to me on a personal level, and it goes a lot deeper than just. This is what's exciting about this whole story, what's going on is much greater to me, and I think you probably, hopefully now witnessed it from seeing what's going on in that workshop. Sometimes, and I talk a lot about people, and there's always one thing I always love about any guitar that we're talking about is there's always a story. I always think there's a wonderful story behind the scenes with a lot of the things that we do, but equally importantly, there's always a human element to it, and I think. You know, when you feel like you're connecting with someone on a human level, it has exciting kind of repercussions going forward. So, you've met this man,
yes,
Stan the man. You've met him,
yes.
But we'll talk about that in a minute because I'm still rambling, and we probably need in like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So, okay, so this is what I want to talk to you about: my own views, my own kind of feelings about this product. Why I find it quite fascinating, and then I'm going to get John to talk about his actual sort of experiences where you've been to the workshop this last weekend to Slovenia. He's been out for a couple of days to visit
Slovakia.
What did I say? Slovenia? Where the hell's Slovenia? Is that near? Is that near?
I am not.
I don't know. No. I'm really glad you're here, because normally that would have been a comment. By the way, Richard, it would have been Stan saying, by the way, Richard, I actually live in Slovakia, so should we just redo that? No, we can't redo it because you know the Slovakia, of course it is. I knew that. I don't even know where Slovenia is.
No,
it must be somewhere near.
My geography is terrible.
It must be somewhere near. Okay, so the very first starting point of this is a man called Sol. And thank you very much to Sol out there. Hello, Sol. Sol runs a website, and I would apologise, Sol, if I get this wrong, but I think it's called yamahamusician.com or yamahamusicians.com. Which is a fantastic forum. Historically, I've not always gone down well with forums because of like slightly outspoken views, which don't always follow the kind of mainstream. So clearly, that's always going to ruffle a few feathers. So, but Sol has just been. It's hard to explain because you kind of. I think the reason why I've always valued this chap's feedback and support, if you like, of what I do, is because he runs a forum. He seems like a nice, normal guy, clearly passionate about guitars, but he can kind of he doesn't seem to have inbuilt kind of like, he hasn't sort of been totally brainwashed to the point where he wants to kill me because I have assassinate my family because I don't have a certain view on a certain guitar, which is quite nice. So it's nice that you can have conversations with people that we're all kind of stay friends and don't want to kill each other at the end of it. So yeah, so he's just been on the sidelines, and what he's been doing is, I think it was when the video started, he said, look Rich, I see the kind of stuff that you're into, and he said, have you ever tried Dowina guitars? Which I don't think I'd heard of, I don't think at that point. And everything that he said to me sounded like it was really my cup of tea. He explained about the background with, they may have talked to you about this, about the links and friendships between Furch. I always call it, I don't want to say Frankenstein, because I know it's not Frankenstein, but it's his name's Frank, but it's obviously it's not a name.
Yeah.
If it was Fred or something, I could say it, but it's a name I'm not used to saying. But it's Mr. Furch. Mr. Furch and himself go back a long way, I believe, from my understanding and conversations I've had with some emails I've had with him now. So all these guys in the Eastern Europe, as we might consider it, seem to have an incredible knowledge. And as soon as you know that one guy knows the other guy and they're all kind of pals and they're all from the same background,
it all makes sense.
Things start twigging. You go, oh, hang on, this could be interesting. So it started there. I won't ramble on too much about the intermediary stuff, but basically Soul has done a great job of keeping me in touch with what's going on. My first negative was when I started researching it and I saw a couple of shops that were selling the gear, and it just didn't add up. Okay, it didn't seem to make sense. That, hang on, you've got this handmade sort of incredibly, I don't like to use the word boutiques, it kind of makes it sound overly expensive, but as you'll say, they're just ridiculously affordable, aren't they? So it's like it's a genuinely handcrafted instrument that isn't ridiculously affordable, made with true passion, and yet why is it in, I'm not going to mention shops, but it was in certain shops that just were not your kind of shops that you normally associate with kind of like quality specialist gear, more your kind of like volume stuff. So that was my first bit of feedback I gave to Soul. So well, it doesn't seem to add up with me, because I'm kind of getting really excited and wanting to invest my energy and love of guitars into this, but they're being sold in shops that just have no connection, as I'm not aware, with gear on that level. So we had that, so that kind of delayed things for a long time. Anyway, many months, maybe even a year passed or more, and Soul made me aware that there was a new distributor coming to the UK, a bit of a change of direction for everyone, and then it kind of started going, okay, all right, well, this sounds exciting, and hence where we then got introduced to some the UK distributor. So it's Steve at CUK. Hello, Steve. Who's no longer my best friend, he's your best friend.
He is. Because you fabulous man, is Steve.
Yeah. So shared a bed and everything. Did you? Oh, we don't say it on camera. No.
Only once.
We'll edit that out as well. So they shared a good time together at Slovakia. So I'm the kind of man on the outside at the moment, sort of trying to sort of, oh guys, people, what's going on? So I was really upset that I was really clear. The thing is, I was really genuinely, I couldn't have been happier that you went. And I think with being the sort of manager of the store, effectively, that's essentially what you are. And the kind of almost like what I describe as a primary interface between the people coming through the door. I'm kind of around and there, but might be in the middle of doing something stupid, and running around. But you're the calming interface that people see. So to have you go and witness what I hoped you would kind of experience, that I felt you would, because from everything I knew. So now I'm going to keep going. I'm going to get to the point, which is Stan. My introduction to Stan. Yes. Stan. I heard about this distributor. Then I get an email from a man called Stan. Stan is the man that makes the guitars, and I get this email out the blue from the builder that I had never spoken to before, and he. It was everything about the way he talks, and I've never met him, but everything about the way he expressed himself and the way he discussed his love of what he did, his love of the timbers he uses, the love of the selection process. One of my lights just went out. The love of the selection process. This is just a man, and without being kind of like too. You do start to draw parallels, and I love what I do, and I know you love what you do, and I just think it's lovely when you meet someone, you go, hang on, this guy is he's kind of like me in that other world, in his world. He's just immersing himself, and he's loving what he does. Obviously completely different. He's an highly talented, skilled man. I'm just a guy that likes guitars. But you still can connect and understand that there's something special going on with this guy. And so we had a few emails backwards and forwards, and I was just completely, kind of metaphorically in love with the guy. He just seemed like such a lovely guy to know, and something really huge. Again, I've never met him, but there's just something. He has an aura about him, even in the emails. That I just thought, this is a special guy making special guitars. So this is the way it's all come across to me. Then anyway, we saw some guitars, didn't we?
We did.
Bought them, and I think it's fair to say our jaws pretty much were like, what? With the pricing, and I think we saw samples, so some samples of earlier models, but even those earlier models were like between 600 and 900 quid, I think, for all solid woods.
I think we got a few of them ones that were about 300 to 400 as well, which was still just mad.
And these are the other bit, which is the court related stuff. So I have to. Well, you will probably talk about that. I'll go to you there, because that whole thing, we'll chat about that as well. So I seriously, I couldn't believe that the marquetry, what we call it, the woodworking and the finishing detail, and this was a guy with, how many guys are there that I know we'll flip to?
They have about 15 people there, and I saw most of them doing what they do, which was quite nice. So saw some great prices, saw the amazing guitars, and then we thought, no, right, we're doing this. The whole storyline, the backstory, the whole kind of connection, and the First link. Obviously, I'm a massive fan of First guitars. They're all friends. I can hear about all the stories that are going on. So yeah, just a big, lovely kind of story behind it. So I'll hand over to you to talk to me. Yes.
Now we genuinely. John went, and how much have we spoken? I had a migraine yesterday.
We have not. I remember you texted me I think it was shortly before we flew out. He said, "Don't tell me anything. I want everything to be completely new to me." So all you've seen is a few pictures that I sent you today, and the pictures that Dowina and Steve and the guys at CUK have sent, and that is it. So no idea what's going on.
So it's like Christmas Day for me. I want to, sort of, you're metaphorically unwrapping the presents, and giving them to me. So they better be good presents, or else I'll be really upset.
So
I'll tell me about it.
I'll start with Stan, because he is exactly how you expect him to be. Exactly, and he's absolutely fantastic. We met him and his daughter Erika, who I believe he wants to take over the business next year. He wants to. Well, he's still going to be there, but he wants to take a step back and let her take a lot more control, because he's taught her how to do a lot of the wood tapping and that kind of thing. And that's one of the really nice things, is that it was such a family-orientated business.
And it's a bit naughty that initially when I heard, Erika's taking over, it's a real sexist kind of thing. That I thought, really? Is daughter's taking over the woodworking and the guitar, then as soon as I heard the whole, isn't that incredible? It's like, why do we live in a world where you sort of think, it's like when Teresa would work with me in the shop, which she still does, but I remember in the old days, and I really used to get upset about it, she knew everything about what's going on around there, but it still looked to me. And I think that whole sexist kind of male thing has got to go.
Yes.
And we got to get women building guitars. And,
power to Erika.
Power to Erika.
Both of them are just, they have infinite knowledge about everything they're doing. Basically on Tuesday, I started, we met for lunch, which was really nice. Had a traditional Slovakian lunch. I ate some goose. And then we went to the workshop just to see every single step that they go through.
I don't think the guinea pigs like that.
In order. So we started off, we went to the wood room, which was probably my favourite room. It was literally just shelves and shelves of bits of guitar before they've been cut out, just like slabs of wood, basically. All of which were sort of ordered. Basically, the way they do it is obviously, Stan goes to different countries to source out the wood that he wants to put on his guitars.
Even when he talks about that,
listening, I could listen to. This is going to sound really, really rude. I could listen to him talk about wood all day, every day. Just because he's just got so much enthusiasm for it. But so they've got shelves and shelves, and what happens is he'll pick all of the best woods that he can get, take them back to the workshop, obviously tap tunes them there and then he takes them back. Then
John, stop! Tell me about tap tuning.
So basically, I have no idea how to do it. Apparently it is very, very difficult.
Can I tell you what I know about tap tuning?
Go on.
Tap tuning is a phrase that I have heard. I like to think I should know, and I want it to be really people to sort of know that sometimes you just go into a world and you think, you know, you kind of know what you know, but there's lots and lots of things you don't know, and sometimes you think, how can I be in this industry 24 years
and not know?
And not really know? I know the word, I know the phrase, I know they do this, and I know I saw which was fascinating, on one of the guitars that were delivered. It had a C sharp, I think, on it, and I had no idea why that said C sharp on it. So you tell me now.
So,
why did that have a C sharp on it?
So, like you said, they hold the.
If you don't know the answer, we'll just edit that bit.
And they'll. And they basically if I assume it's something to do with microtones and stuff like that. He didn't go into that much depth, I assume, because trade secrets and all that we can't know.
You didn't ask him, did you?
No. It was Erika that mostly talked to us about tap tuning, actually. But
yes,
they tap
Erika's
it,
the one
and so she's learning to do it as well.
Yeah.
It'll obviously relate to a specific note. I assume, for example, if you were looking for a C, you tapped it and it was between a C and a B flat or something like that.
You tap it and the actual sound that naturally resonates.
You can hear the resonator. It was amazing just to see, because if you and me do it, we wouldn't do it right. We'd just hold a bit of wood and it'd go, and that's it.
No.
But seeing Erika and Stan do it, they hold it and you can just hear the resonance from the wood.
That already makes so much more sense. Rather than tuning it to the letter, the note, they're whacking it, and the natural that's my technical they're whacking it, and that natural resonance of that guitar is what's written on that piece of wood.
Yeah, essentially. But they do tune it to note, and it's mad. Again, it's just.
So can they shave the wood further from when it's been cut? Or now, hang on. How thick is this piece of wood when they do that?
So it's they do shave it down for after tap tuning it. So that's the next step. They obviously tune it up, but it's still the same. It's still got the same resonance. They do it sort of very, very, sort of in very small amounts when they shave it down.
Yeah.
They've got a guy that's
make sure our battery
slims it through.
Our battery will probably run.
But it still keeps that quality because that's how that bit of wood is.
Yeah.
And again, it was just fascinating to see this because I was the same as you. I knew what tap tuning was, but I had no idea what it meant or how you would do it. And finding out that it's just something very specific that people like Stan know how to do, and obviously he's passing it down. It's an actual skill. Yeah. Just tapping a bit of wood in a particular way is something that needs to be, and it's really important actually because and that's why you saw the C sharp in that guitar. Every single top and every single guitar that is coming, all of the tops that are coming to this country are going to be tap tuned by Stan himself.
And that's another important
which
point,
is really special.
And I mean, without sounding too sales pitchy, and I don't want this to come across in any way like that, but obviously we're here to tell people about it and why we're excited about them. The point is that whilst they make guitars and they can make guitars for different, they can basically make guitar to a specification that is asked of them, can't they?
Yes.
And what's exciting about Steve at CUK, and we've chatted with him, and I've given him my views. And I'm like, just make them as good as, because the prices that they can make these guitars at, so you just make them as whatever he can put his heart and soul into. Let's get him to make it, and for the UK market, let's get the best.
That's it.
And because I also feel, and I don't want to totally, I'm not going to, because of what I was saying earlier about these kind of the style of stores that have been, I just feel that there's probably been a very, very different ethos toward what Stan can do and at what price.
Yes.
And so therefore, I just hope that his kind of whole kind of enthusiasm and desire to build guitars of the best can come out through supplying them into the UK market. That's a big deal to me. I want that to be, you know, you'd want him to feel like his creativity isn't being smothered because we've asked him to do that.
Yeah, so we're sort of opening the gates and letting him do everything. Yeah. But going on that as well, the UK is actually getting an exclusive guitar from them, which is really nice. But so it all gets tap tunes. They pick the woods. They even sort of tune the bracing. Apparently, we didn't get to see them doing it, which was a shame. But all the bracing is tuned to so everything sits and in harmony, basically. So
when you tune the bracing, without putting you on the spot again, I mean, are we not talking about? Are we talking about the tone it makes after it's been braced, or we're not talking about the actual bracing?
I think it's the wood that they use for the bracing, and then obviously it all gets.
But they know what they're talking about.
But basically, they know what they're doing. it is just so, there's so much info about this kind of thing that is taking it all in. I think you must need to have a brain the size of a planet.
Now tell me whether what I'm about to say, is it unreasonable? I know you don't want to necessarily get into the politics of the kind of things that I get into lots of trouble over, but just see if you've got a view on this. When I'm talking about brands, other brands, let's not use any other brand because you don't need to. Other well-known brand names, when they, on their own videos, their own kind of marketing, shows you, you know, thousands of mass-cut pieces of bracing with a guy literally doing this, whacking them on in literally conveyor belt fashion, and the tops have just been cut out with CNC tooling. How can we, as human beings with minds that operate, how can we know that this skill and this knowledge that takes years and years and years to understand and pass on from families, how can we know that that kind of thing happens, and then know it's not happening on another product, yet put that product up there? And whereas people like Stan in his workshop, who's like, he's just living for his world, he's living for this, you know, skill. Just no one even knows he's there.
He's engulfed in the whole process of doing it, isn't he? It is something.
That is crazy, isn't it? It's a crazy concept, crazy world we live in.
But unfortunately, it's the same with pretty much any industry. People are going to pay for a particular name on their clothes. It happens,
and they build their reputation up. So you kind of understand that, you know, people have to have a benchmark. They have to have and people can only learn what they're told and shown. But it does, you know, and not in a negative way. It's nice to be. What's lovely is, and I know you've already experienced this, but when people come to the shop and they'll spend time with you and they're like, I didn't know any of these brands, and that's one of the exciting things.
I think my favourite thing is when people come in and sort of have a quick look around and go, who are all these people? It's because it's really nice to be able to introduce people to brands that are like Dowina, like Eastman, like Auden, Furch, and the list goes on. Who have never seen them before, and then you get to be the first person to put one of their guitars in their hands, and then they just go,
and their face,
oh my god, that kind of thing. It is amazing. And
so I took you up,
and that's actually that kind of feeling is what I felt going to Dowina on the whole, because obviously we tried the ones that we had in the shop, which was sort of a few select models from their I think it's the Pantheon range, and we had a couple of the lower price ones, which I can't remember the name of the range for, which is terrible.
No, you wouldn't. No, we've got stuff written on our website.
Yeah, we've got a brochure and all of that stuff. But and they were just, but being able to play, being able to play some of the ones which are there, I think you can get them master built for about £1,500. And I played some, several of them, and all of them just instantly I fell in love with. There was a particular parlour guitar, I can't remember the wood on the back and sides, but it had a dolomite spruce top that was torrified.
How did those little
fantastic
pearls and things they put little sort of sapphires and things? Does that look nice, or
it does actually?
I think it's one of those things that I've looked at because I don't have the history of selling the product, and it's easy for me to look at that and think, ooh, it's a bit.
I think it's one of those things really that does look better in person. So they've got the Silk Road and the Amber Road. I got to play. I saw a Silk Road.
Because now I'm sort of thinking it might be quite pretty.
It was really well done. Because I think if you see a picture of something like that, you kind of expect, oh, they might have gotten like a little gem from Poundland and just stuck it on with some adhesive. But it's not like that. You can sort of see where I don't know if it was something to do with the way they finished the headstock or they shaped the wood specifically, but you could sort of see it was almost blending in with the wood and the headstock, which looked great. So it looked really nice. Because that was on the Silk and the Amber Road. We didn't play the Silk Road because the one that was there was, just to name drop, was.
In classic style, the camera just ran out of it ran out of memory.
Yes.
So I've just deleted the video I did yesterday, and I'm hoping we can get to it. So you were saying Dave Straubs.
Yes. I saw the Silk Road guitar that Dave from the Straubs had picked for himself.
Yeah.
Which is mad. That's just one of their. It's not stock because it's still master built. Which means it's really their top woods.
Master built. Does that mean that basically Stan makes it? Or
essentially, Stan. I assume little bits will still mostly be done by a few of the other members of staff, but Stan is really in depth. Like when we were there on Wednesday, for example, we couldn't find him because he was just somewhere in the workshop, which is this sort of maze of stairs and rooms and things like that. So he's always pretty much always hands-on. Whichever guitar it is, he's still going to be hands-on with it.
Going off around the world finding his bit of wood.
All that. But so the Masterbuilt range is basically when they're doing the tap tuning, they decide which range that particular bit of wood is going to be for. So even if it's spruce, they'll tap tune it, and Masterbuilt will get the best of the best of the best spruce.
And this reminds me of something that Stan said that I know frustrates him, and it was fascinating because it follows on from my Eastman video that I did with the one with the blemish on the or the birthmark. I shouldn't call it a blemish, the birthmark. I said in the video that my daughter's got a birthmark on her back.
Yes, I remember that one.
And you know, now, but it was fascinating because in one of those emails that we had backwards and forwards, just sharing our views on stuff, he mentioned how when they get shown, when they get taken to the stores for all these kind of AAA, what they call them, spruce tops, and it's all based on visual aesthetics. And I kind of talked to him about, like, you know, we're living in a world where we don't know what a tomato looks like anymore.
Yes.
Because actually a tomato isn't always perfectly round.
You want a big lumpy thing.
Yeah, and because it'll probably taste a lot better if it's just like this kind of like, it's been in the soil in its rich environment. And and maybe Spain's a good place to actually say, because he goes to Spain getting, I think he's going to Spain getting tops from somewhere.
Yes, that sounds about right.
But anyway, but he was saying how infuriating it is that he will go through these tops, and he may find only a tiny fraction of those tops, which are classed as AAA, top, best looking woods you can find. Only a tiny fraction of those actually will sound the way he knows it should sound. And then he'll go through the rest of the stores, and then he'll find amazing sounding guitars that have got like the curve in the grain or a little bit of a blemish or something. And he said, well, what do you do? As a builder, it must be enormously frustrating and upsetting that you get this, you know, imagine the Holy Grail. But you can't use that because it's just
it's like it's like bear claws, isn't it? Some people absolutely love them, some people pay extra for them, that kind of thing.
And I had that chap who wanted the Eastman, and his wife didn't like it.
But it's one of those things. Unfortunately, I think some people do want something looking pristine, especially like spruce. But going back to that, actually, there was a good little anecdote he told us that had recently happened. We went into his office, which was just this amazing little room, just instruments in every corner, including the first instrument he ever built, which was some Slovakian pipe. So he played that for us, which was very, very good. But he had on his coffee table in the middle of the room, he had a little sofa like this, and in front of that was this coffee table with some fretboards that hadn't been cut yet, but it was wood fretboards spread across the coffee table. It was ebony, but it wasn't. Obviously, everyone expects very, very black, clean ebony, and this was. It was not. Basically, it was brown, sort of a lot of white bits in. It was absolutely beautiful. And he was given it by, I'm sure he said he was given it by Bob Taylor, who said, no, we've got to have it all black. So
I know they've been having conversations, and I know that in credit and fairness to Bob Taylor, because obviously I'm sometimes a bit critical about that whole volume kind of thing, Stan was very, very highly, he spoke very highly of Bob Taylor, was saying about his views on, I think they were having conversations about ecology and environment and the kind of pitfalls of consumer needs with, like he's saying, they can't use, you know, Bob Taylor's customer base, they don't want anything other than black.
They want pristine black ebony.
It's black, you know, Whereas I'm hoping that you know, maybe if we can do our Jedi main trick on people, we can kind of encourage people to embrace
the wood,
natural
the
things.
woodiness of wood. This is one of the things I really liked about what I got to see when I was going there and sort of experience was how eco-friendly they have their mindset. as a group of people.
Cool.
Like Erika was saying, one thing that she wants to do as a project next year is build a completely eco-friendly guitar. So she didn't go into much depth about it.
Made out of
but sort of maybe made out of
paper mache.
I don't know. Is that eco-friendly? Made out of newspapers?
Isn't it? If you reuse
I suppose it's still trees,
isn't paper mache toilet paper?
It depends who you are.
Could it be reusable? No, it couldn't.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And all of the offcuts they use for things. So, for example, we went into one of their rooms with their machines in. I'll go into the machines because that might.
Oh, in which case you better be quick-ish because our first run of memories run out, and we can only go as long as yesterday's video.
Yes,
that's how.
However long that was.
Yeah, so I think it was about 18 minutes. We got 6.
So all of the offcuts they use.
Yes.
They are either given to. Stan was saying that they give them to jewellery makers. Well, jewellery makers ask for bits of wood, and they'll give them offcuts that they can't use on guitars. And then other offcuts, for example, things like rosewood and ebony and things like that. If it's still some of the very, very high grade sound wood or tone wood, they'll use it for bridges.
Yeah.
So every bit of wood is being used to its full potential, basically. And then they also make these nice little price tags. I've got a few to show you, which are just the cutest things I've ever seen. These little laser cut guitars made out of wood.
Yeah, cool. Well, that'll go with my little keychain that I.
And yes, and speaking of the laser cutting, so 95% of what they do is handmade.
Yes,
I saw people doing everything by hand.
They've got a bit of modern technology that I know they've put into just for the most sort of.
They've got a CNC machine and they've got a laser cutting machine. So the CNC machine, and I fully get this again. So Stan and Erika both sort of explained why they use them. Stan explained the laser cutting and Erika explains CNC. The CNC machine is for the necks. So in the grand scheme of things, they still want their guitars to be consistent in terms of quality. So they're not fully shaped by the CNC machine.
It's basically getting the point from a block.
Yeah.
It's like there's that element, isn't? So I know I've just taken. Yes. I'm just. You tell me if I'm wrong. They get it basically getting a block of wood.
Yeah.
It is not. You say it could be pointless, but it is insane to have to chisel that block right from the beginning.
When there's 15 of them, they're wanting to. They're obviously building guitars for as many people as they can. They can't be doing it like that.
It's almost like saying, well, are you going to go out and chop the tree down?
Yeah,
and
that's it.
And then how handmade. So it's like so they chop it to the point where it's the shape of a neck.
Spot on. They get it to a degree to the shape of a neck. Obviously there are jagged edges, and then obviously the rest of the shaping gets done by hand. Yeah, cool. That's the only CNC machine they've got, and then they've got the laser cutter to cut the shape of the tops.
Yes.
So the tops are laser cut again, and consistency, and because their shapes, some of their shapes are quite unique as well. They're designed by Stan.
Yeah.
So again, it just means that they'll stay consistent.
Yeah, and in the world of electric guitar building, I've witnessed firsthand Gordon Smith and Eastman guitars, both of which are hand building brilliant guitars, incredible guitars. We've had criticism on both of those brands because the back plates weren't completely perfectly matched up to the recess, and it's like, it's handmade. That was cut out by our hand. It wasn't a laser. And the thing is, it's like, so what do you do? Do you keep it handmade to the nth degree where there's human? That's where we come back to tomatoes.
That's it.
Do you want perfect tomato, or do you want to know there's a bit of reality in it? A bit of
they're the only two machines that they use. In honesty, again, Stan explained it. It's the kind of thing that a person couldn't do better than a machine. He said that machines are okay for that kind of thing, but sort of the more creative and more hands-on parts, he will always keep hand done. No matter how much they grow, if they grow and that kind of thing, he's always going to keep certain aspects hand done because a machine can't do it right. Basically, is almost what he said.
No.
I fully get that. I fully support it. It makes sense.
We got 9 minutes. I think we've probably got 5 minutes, probably to be safe, left of my yesterday's video.
So, and again, that's just the whole ethos. Just doing everything well, everything looking great, and just keeping everything as sustainable as possible, which I think is really important.
And we will definitely, because that's something that I absolutely want to kind of get involved. I've been putting my hand up to manufacturers as anyone who I can get close to, saying what can be done about sustain. Is this even a stupid question? Because I almost feel a bit stupid asking it, because it's like the concept of having a guitar made out of wood.
Yeah.
It's like well, how can you have an eco-friendly thing that you've chopped a piece of wood down? But people like Bob Taylor, growing trees. If you have mass planting of trees, yes, it takes time, but you can. It's
still recontributing.
You can grow more trees.
That's it.
You can plant more trees than what you'll need to cut down if you're a hand builder of guitars. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'll take years and years and years to actually grow, but you will plant. If you think of your the way I look at it in my naive way, if I was a guitar builder and I was thinking of my footprint or whatever, I'd be thinking, okay, well, by the time I die, how many trees will I have been responsible for cutting down? Well, if in my lifetime I actually regenerate 100 times more trees than I've actually been responsible for cutting down,
it's still a sustainable.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating. So it is a fascinating thing.
One thing that I'm going to end it on this, I think, because this is one thing I absolutely loved about the whole thing.
Yeah, and really.
So the first thing I saw when I got to the factory was outside in the car park. They had about 5 or 6 slabs of literally almost half of a tree's worth of wood, just in a big row with the bark on the sides. And the guy that Erika, she kept saying he's the PhD man because he's the smartest man in the building. Apparently, he was drawing the shapes of the guitars in there and things. So I literally got to see a guitar from these bits of oak that were in the car park.
So so he was drawing guitars on the piece of wood.
So it was essentially getting the shapes of where these the bits that are going to have what bits on it, basically. So it was oak, so it's back and sides.
Yeah.
And it was incredible.
Because is that what he does every day? That's where they do it, in the car park.
I think so. Well, obviously because they're huge bits of wood, huge bits of wood, so they have to do it in the car park. And then he obviously cuts it down, takes it into their workshop, and then it gets started, which is just amazing. Because it's easy to think, well, I know it's wood, but then forget that when you see this bit of tree, it was just fascinating. I'm thinking of getting a Masterbuilt done for myself. Hopefully with oak back and sides, because I want a guitar with the bit of wood I saw.
That you saw, it creates that whole connection, doesn't it?
So I'll have a guitar with a story from.
That's ridiculous.
So
that's amazing. Okay, right. Well, we will have so John, it's amazing, and there's probably stuff that we've not covered and stuff that
I'll
but it's really exciting, isn't it? And to be we're very lucky to have the kind of to be able to have this dimension to what we do. I just think it's amazing, and hopefully you guys out there will if you see this video, at least when you see the Dowina guitars in the shop, you will kind of have had that little bit of experience to understand the background behind the guitar and its story, which I think just makes it so much more real. And
any questions I'll be happy to answer as well. And next month we're expecting, I think, our first batch
timelines are like next month
we're getting our first batch.
Sugar, we haven't talked about Court. We don't need to, but basically, in a nutshell, I mean, do you want to say it?
So they're lower budget guitars. They're still bits of wood that Stan picked. Stan picks them, they get sent over to Court, who glue them together, then they send them back. Then the necks and all of the other bits are still done at Dowina, and then attached to these bodies that have been glued together before.
It's insane.
He's got a great relationship with Court. They have nothing bad to say about them as well.
And I've had a little written letter from Stan, because obviously I've been talking about ethics and work practices. If you Google ethical issues with guitar building, human welfare issues, it's always Court that comes up, because it was all a political maelstrom, or what you call it, about 15 years ago. In another country. In another part of the world, but I've been very close friends with the director of Court over two companies worth, who have not only have they seen it firsthand. I've been invited to see the guys. I've seen photographs of the guys working. I've seen all the evidence of the modern technology they use. Stan was very. I think it was Erika that was kind to. No. She spoke to me originally. Then Stan, because I was very concerned. I wanted to know about it, and I want to get the world to know that clearly, in terms of the environments that these guys are working in, and the connections they have with the factories that they have, the working environment sounds like amazing.
That's it. Considering Dowina's ethos, they wouldn't be so heavily connected with
really
a company like Core if they were that kind of company. That's what I got anyway.
Yeah, so, it's frustrating that it's like Core are branded as this kind of the evil of the guitar, and we haven't got time to discuss it now, clearly. But I just want people to know that we are very comfortable about the background, and also I have been contacting manufacturers, distributors about the ethics of their the factory's attitude towards human life. It's been quite interesting. So and very positive with the people that we work with, which obviously I expect it to be. But I think that's another little area that we want to kind of talk about more in the future. So that's amazing. That's Dowina. In the future, John, you're an expert in. I like to think of you. You're like this kind of gadgety man. You're pedals man.
Yeah, pedals, technology. I love experimenting with guitars in that kind of way. So hopefully
you're also ridiculously calming. You're a lovely guy, and you are the yin to my yang, because I'm completely like off the walls, and you're just bringing everything to a lovely steady pace. And you've had amazing feedback from the guys who've come to visit. You've seen the feedback on the thing, and so I want you guys to see a lot more of John, and we'll maybe, if people like it, we can chat about more stuff in the future as well. I'd really love that, and all the stuff that I'm absolutely rubbish at, you can actually you can put us give people advice on stuff that's your specialist area as well. So is that cool?
I think so.
All right then. Okay. All right. Well, we'll say goodbye. Cheers. Bye bye guys. Cheers. Bye.